Hi everyone, NUSensei here. Today I'm going to talk through a problem which some people come across, especially as beginners, and that is the mindset of shooting way too quickly. To clarify, I'm not talking about speed shooting. If your goal is to shoot as fast as possible or to shoot to a particular rhythm, then that's different. This isn't a problem, although some of the issues may be similar. I'm talking about people who, for no other reason, want to rush through all their shots. So it doesn't matter how fast you shoot or which style you shoot, you can fall into the mindset of just going to your next shot without even thinking about it. I've seen this done with many beginners using bare bow. I've seen this with people using sights for the first few times. I see this with traditional shooters. This tends to be a little less common with the modern styles because of the nature of the equipment. So the sights and the clicker will slow you down, but you still can rush through shots and fall prey to the same habits which will impede your progress. What I am talking about is the kind of person who just skips to the next arrow. And you can see this in a very subtle way in the way people practice, but the main symptom is that you can recognize they've done all their arrows in like a minute straight. Now, keep in mind, in a tournament, you have like 4 minutes to shoot 6 arrows. You've actually got plenty of time. And in practice, there's no time pressure. But I do often see people go through 6 or 12 arrows in just over a minute. And the mentality is justified in some ways. The people I've spoken to who do this will say things like, well, there's not much time remaining before the sun goes down, so I want to shoot as many arrows as possible. That makes sense. I've seen people say things like, if I shoot more arrows, I will condition faster and make faster progress, which again makes some logical sense. However, these things don't lead to positive habits and positive growth. And while it is possible to attain a certain amount of proficiency with rush shooting, as the difficulty becomes higher, such as smaller targets or longer distances, you will find that these fast routines or fast shot processes will be less helpful, and you will probably naturally take more time to aim properly. So we'll go through some of the reasons why a rushed process is going to harm your development and why you should consider slowing down. Now, as most archers will know, and as many coaches will tell you, archery isn't about the shot, it's about the process. A lot of people go into the sport thinking that all you have to do is pull the arrow back and let it go. But really, it's about going through a series of steps to ensure consistency and therefore accuracy on target. So when we go through a shot process, we have to go through things like stance, grip, hook, draw, anchor, release, and follow through. And in doing all this and drilling the process in every single shot, you will see that you will improve very quickly, but you understand the fundamental cause of good shooting in archery, and that is consistency. But for those who are shooting far too quickly, you are more likely to be rushing through and skipping parts of the process. So while it may seem like a nice shot, you're simply going too quickly to consolidate the things you should be paying attention to. One of the steps which often slips when people shoot too quickly is the anchor point. Now, the anchor point will differ between different styles. Some will shoot on a high anchor point towards the cheek or the lips. Others who are shooting, say, a modern target style will anchor lower on the chin. Point being is that the anchor point serves as a consistent reference point. Should this point change, your accuracy on target will also change, irrespective of what other things you do right. So the consequence might look like this. And each time I shot, I use a slightly different anchor point. Now, my shot on target may still be on target. I'm shooting just 5 meters away. It might mislead me to thinking that I've got all arrows on the same spot, therefore I'm doing everything right. But this erratic movement is not going to help me build strong foundations. So instead of getting it in there and going as fast as you can, do take that moment to think about where you are placing your hand in relation to your face. for your anchor point. And what I like to do is just remind people and remind myself to take the time to draw and get some strong contact point. Again, depending on your style, could be up here, could be down here, but try to feel that tightness against your face. Any looseness is a sign that you are losing your anchor point, and therefore something is going to change and slip, and therefore it won't be a perfect on target shot. So again, take your time, anchor, and then shoot. And it feels better when you have that contact and you know that this is the tightest possible shot and therefore the tightest possible grouping. The second thing which often gets forgotten in a rush process is point of aim. Now, if you're shooting instinctively, you're shooting at moving targets, if that's your thing, then this will apply to you to a lesser extent. But for standard target shooting, having some kind of reference point is important. And if you don't remember where the point is and you're not looking for it, then you may find yourself instinctively shooting poorly instead of getting the best possible result. So again, we're going to do some short distance shooting to demonstrate this habit from a fast process. I'm just going to shoot at a fairly rapid pace. Okay, that one hit just outside the center circle, so it's a 9 at a big target of 5 meters. Now, the question is, where was I aiming exactly? Like, in my mind, what was my sight picture? Where was my point of the arrow? Where was I looking at? Can I repeat this? Let's find out. So, same rush process, and that same level, but off to the left. Was it my technique or was it my aim point? Same thing. Okay, that's grouped just below the original target, so maybe I am looking at the same spot. But where was that spot? And one more for good luck. And that's, again, same level, same grouping to the left. So something's not working right, but at least it's consistent. But it's only 5 meters, and even for the bare bow with mismatched arrows, there should be a higher standard if I took my time and paid attention. So what I'm going to do now is do the same things before, but take my time. I'm going to allow myself that extra second to double check that I'm looking at the same spot each time. So what I'm going to do now is pay specific attention to where my arrow is at full draw. And I'm just intentionally using a point of aim reference. So I'm going to put my point of the arrow on the wooden beam on the bottom of the target, on the top part of the wooden beam, and every single shot I do will be in that one spot on the beam. So that shot was low on target, but let's do the exact same spot, the same spot on that beam, and see if we get the exact same spot on the target. Okay, that's pretty close. Let's do another one. And that's right in that grouping. So while I'm low on target, the fact that I can consistently hit that same spot means that I can simply adjust my aim point and therefore bring that arrow grouping into the middle. So again, slow, conscious, and deliberate. That's the go word today. Every shot we do is going to be purposeful and deliberate. So I'm gonna sight my arrow at a spot just above that beam. Okay, we know we're about 5 inches below. We'll move a bit up on our sight and we'll see what we can do. Right in the middle. And there is a white speck on that target which I can see. I'm going to put my arrow point there every single time. In the middle. In the middle. Slightly low, I'll rush that shot. In the middle, in the middle, and just slightly low. There might be a release issue, but still roughly in the middle. So that's 7 consecutive shots, most of which I fit exactly where I wanted to go for. Again, I've got a fairly vague spot, but there is a tiny speck of white on target where I'm matching where the arrowhead goes. Now, not everyone's going to use a point of aim reference or use gap shooting or something else. I might use a different system. I'm not saying that you have to give up instinctive shooting. Again, if you're doing instinctive, then that's what you do. You become better at that. What I'm saying is for people who are trying to hit the target and purposely aim for the highest possible points, rushing the process and not paying attention to where you are aiming at can cause you to spray the target and think you're doing something wrong. In actuality, you might be doing everything right, but your arrow is pointing in the wrong direction. And that's really what it comes down to. With a simple demonstration of having one specific spot, which in every sequence I remembered to do, I could put arrows in the exact spot I wanted to. And that's something you can't really achieve as easily if you're speeding through and letting go without paying attention. Remember, deliberate, purposeful shots. Just to showcase how effective taking time can be, having a reference point, we've got 2 low shots, that's what we called before. Everything else is in the X except for 110 slightly high. Look, it's an easy target, we're 10 meters away, it's not a huge difficulty spike, but as a beginner, this is your standard distance. And if you can do this on your first or second session, your instructor is going to give you a high five, because that is really impressive shooting. What this shows the instructor is that you have a strong grasp of fundamentals, and that will take you a long, long way. The next issue which tends to pop up with a rush process is not using back tension. And this is something which people really struggle as new archers to understand, because back tension is fairly unique to archery, and understanding that motion, the expansion and the squeezing of the back muscles can be tricky to master. But one thing that can be said is if you rush the process, it's very likely you're not expanding and therefore not maximizing your muscle usage. So, typical rush process, in and then let go. All right, even with a reference point, I'm going to rush the process and not feel the expansion. So we're going to knock, pull it back and let it go. Oops. So it's on target, but I'm starting to flop around a bit here. Okay, that was a sloppy shot, didn't anchor properly, definitely didn't have any back tension. And what you find is that on target, your arrows kind of spray left and right. Okay, that was a crappy shot in general. Intentional, of course. Let's actually anchor and just do a quick shot. Okay, and that's perhaps more of a sign of someone rushing and not using back tension. That lack of follow through, like that. So you can still shoot pretty accurately, by the way. I'm more than gold. Of course, it's only 10 meters away, but we're not highlighting good habits at the moment. You often see people do that, especially that kind of really close and limp release. That's a sign of a lack of back tension. So again, we're going to slow the process down. We're going to feel the shot. And by feeling the shot, what the instructor's probably telling you is, get your anchor point in, look at where you're aiming at, and feel your shoulders move together. It's a very subtle, almost an internal motion. You're not trying to pull any further back. You get to consolidate the process by stopping, and before you release, you get that thing going. It's just a very minor release, but it's a reminder that you should be using correct back tension. This will really come to hit you if you start using a clicker and shoot modern archery styles. But even with trad, if you don't find yourself using back tension and expanding, you're going to collapse a lot more, especially on higher draw weights. I'm using a 20-pound bow. This is a very light bow. You won't feel the tension as much, but you still must follow that process. So we're going through the steps. We're going to anchor and hold there. But instead of releasing right away, I'm going to anchor and then gently squeeze through. All right, and that was a nice expansion. I felt that movement there. I'm going to smack myself by accident. Doesn't matter, these things happen. But I've hit right in the middle again. Had the same reference point, but I'm letting that motion take over. So I'm not trying to be holding it on target. I'm slowing it down and remembering to expand. And that is a core part of most archery processes. There we go. Again, right in the middle, I'm feeling really good about this. Because one of the things which people puzzle over is what a good shot feels like. And a good shot, or one of the signs of a good shot, is your back muscles come together, or your shoulder muscles in your back come together, and it feels like you're really working for it. at the end of the day, if you've been doing it correctly, you will feel that, oh, that kind of hurts a bit sort of pain. That's a good pain. That means you're using the right muscles. Now, the last thing which tends to be overlooked in a rush process is follow through. And I mean this both in a physical follow through and a mental self-evaluation. And I'm sure what I mean. So let's say I am typical fast shooter. I was gonna rush a shot. I'll do an average shot. I'm not gonna flop this one. Average shot, get in there. Okay, hit on the left side of target. Why? What did I do to do that? And by rushing through every shot in my process, by just knocking, drawing, and letting go, I'm not really thinking about what mistakes I've made and how I can improve my next shot. So that was a good shot in the middle. Why did it happen? Which part of my process was executed correctly? Can I do it again? Well, I was close. And what you should be thinking is, instead of getting as many arrows out as possible, as many golds as possible, you should be thinking about making every shot count. Because you can't take an arrow back. That's an important philosophical mindset to have, is once you've shot the arrow, you can't take it back. Whatever you scored there, you can't undo. Whatever you hit, whether it's good or not, you can't replace. You can only do your next shot. And if you wasted shots, have you really shot the arrow? Let's take our time. Let's think about what we do more carefully. We'll do another shot. Okay, that wasn't too bad. And I'll just hold here. I'll let down. You don't have to do this all the time in a T-pose. But you should be thinking about, well, have I gone through all the right motions? Did it go where I wanted it to? Did I have the right sight picture? Did I have the right expansion and execution? And you see a lot of archers do this. You have like so much time, especially in practice. You have to rush yourself. They'll take the time, they'll knock the arrow, and they'll just kind of stand there. Like they'll stand in a sit position, they'll scratch their head and have whatever mannerisms they have, and then they'll go into a sit position, and they'll pause. Because they're letting themselves reflect and prepare for the next shot, mentally and physically. Mentally, we're going through all the processes, the stance, the grip, the hook, the shoulder alignment. We're going to reset our breathing. We're going to forget our last shot. We're going to focus on our back tension. And then when our muscles have recovered and our mind is ready, we go through the process. All right, and if that was a bad shot, then again, we stop and we reflect. Now, if we rush through every single shot in this process and never think about what we did, then we haven't learned. And this is an important part of our progress as archers, is we need to learn from every shot we do. At some point it might matter, whether you're doing it for hunting, whether you're doing it for competition, you need points or you need meat. And if you don't assess yourself and you shoot without any care or reflection, then your progress will not be as rapid as someone who is learning from every shot. And this is an important criteria that people have. Some people will count their practice by arrow volume. How many arrows have we shot this week? And some people might shoot, 300 arrows a week. But if those 300 arrows were bad shots, then what have you learned? And arguably, someone who shoots 30 good shots will learn more than someone who shoots 300 bad shots. And there are some people who will only count their good shots in practice. If it misses the gold or if it feels like a bad shot, they don't count it. They'll only count the ones which have done correctly. You don't have to do it this way. But do you think about having an extra step in the process where you can stop and reflect on what you've done? Doesn't mean you have to shoot so slowly people are waiting for you. Of course not. Be reasonable. But just think about pacing yourself out. And that's the message of this video. Don't feel like you have to rush the process. don't feel like you're being rewarded for shooting as quickly as possible. Again, if that's your actual goal in archery, in speed shooting and so on, then that's different, that's fine. But if you are making shots count, then you need to give yourself the time to execute each step correctly and then reflect on what you've done in order to improve for every shot you do afterwards. Anyway, I hope you found this discussion interesting and helpful. This is NUSensei. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.